ratified. The Treaty of Algiers is ratified. Morocco gains some land. Libya loses a lot of land to Egypt and Tunisia, becoming a puppet of Egypt. And that's basically all that happens. And that's all for today's video. But I have one thing before I go. Is that you should subscribe. We're at 55. I'm trying to get to 75. That's a good total. And if you want to help me, you could subscribe. It's very easy. You just press the subscribe button and say subscribe. And that's good. If you're subscribed, you're good. 83% of you are not subscribed. So I should be at 75, considering 83% of you viewers aren't subscribed. Like, it's a battle getting everybody subscribed. And if you don't have a Google account, then make a Google account. You just go to google.ca and make a Google account. And then you go to YouTube, put that account in, slam the subscribe button, hit that notification bell so you get emails on it and notifications. And that's all for today's video. But leave a comment. Comments are great. Like, leave a comment on a suggested video. Because, well, if you suggest a video, I will make it. I have done that before multiple times. So, please recommend a video. That's all for today's video, Wild Mappa, which include Western Sahara, Ethiopia, Somaliland, Djibouti, DRC, Dr. Congo, Zambia, Uganda, Rwanda, Burundi, Tanzania, and we have the best of all, Kenya, in Long Sudan. But fighting still continues in the north with, well, nothing happening. Nothing does happen yet. Although there is one major thing, they kicked them out. But together, the combined power of Egypt, Tunisia, and Morocco on two different fronts proves too much for the Algerian army, as Algiers is captured, and, well, this happens. And peace is signed. The troops are back, as the blue team has kicked them out of Algeria, but the red team continues to push along the border, making slight gains, and again, and Tunisia pushes down. Libya is put in a bad spot. Israel doesn't get involved, because if they did, well, where would the Sinai Peninsula go? Out the door. And, well, the rest of Libya capitulates. With peace seeming inevitable now. This video is going to be a short one today, I guess. But not short, you know. Well, what would be a good topic to make it short? Yeah, explain that. Well, they continue their advance south into Kenya. But this is like one more failure for Sudan. I mean. Well, discussions are started regarding peace, as Sudan and Egypt are trying to hold this front. Uganda is getting destroyed. But while Uganda is getting destroyed, Sudan is getting kicked back from Kenya. And Tanzanian troops arrive. But, like, peace is seeming like a good idea at this point. Like, Morocco's tired. Tunisia is just like, why did I join this war? Egypt's like, yeah, I can't get any further. And Sudan's like, Egypt, I'm going to lose Eritrea if we don't hurry. Which, unfortunately, this comes true. And unfortunately, this comes true. With a defensive border being set up on the South Sudan border. With Uganda falling. But eventually, they meet in Addis Ababa. I think that's how you pronounce capital of Ethiopia. If I'm wrong, you can correct me. Yeah. And I'll be back with the treaty of are stabilized. And I think I'm recording for losing movement, but gaining some in the northern southern front. They start another offensive. They even cross into the DRC. And they start an offensive here. Sudan does. While Egypt, who's been making steadily gains in the Libya, has started making more. Especially considering like there's a big underground water source that they're trying to take over. Here, the forces go well. And Morocco pushes back to the border of Western Sahara. And they, well, kind of cross. I don't get any further than that. And then they start their offensive here. But quickly, Western Sahara starts counter-offensive and kicks them back to their border. And well, Algeria makes a push. And well, Egypt continues its push into Libya. Algeria puts up a defense. Again. Well, Morocco keeps most control over these lands. In the Ethiopian front, gains are made by Ethiopia in the north, pushing back towards Eritrea. But the problem is, in the Sudan front, Sudan continues making gains. And they push south. With Sudanese troops holding a defensive. And Uganda gets pushed into, sadly. And so does Kenya. And the push goes down towards Rwanda. And, well, Uganda starts having trouble falling apart. Yeah. As they push into Rwanda. This was an overextension, is what they believe. Which they were right about, and they get pushed right back along. They lose all access to both lakes, sadly. And they get pushed back out of the DRC, almost completely. But the forces decide they're not giving up on trying to do this and do it again. And well, usually doing the same thing over and over again is a bad idea more because, it's kind of wrong. And Ethiopia pushes into the panhandle of Eritrea. Yeah, we don't need no more panhandles. Okay. Egyptian forces cross into Algeria. Why are they crossing on the borders in the middle of the desert? Nobody knows. But why is Morocco crossing mountains? Don't ask me how. Why isn't Tunisia involved? Well, Tunisia does get involved at this point. But really, the North African front looks to be stabilizing. And this is around the point where the most fighting in this front in the north cease. I should do the animation mapping. It's pretty cool. I could do like 30-second videos of these. Yeah, that's cool. Yeah. Yeah. Well, Algeria does its final pushback of Morocco. This is how war goes. Everybody dies. The economy's collapsing. And Uganda's kind of in a bad spot now, as most of their country is captured. But they do manage to do an assault. And they push back, and even into South Sudan. No, the war is at a turning point. The offensive in the South Sudan and Ethiopia both gaining push. And yeah, well, Egypt does something now. They start pushing towards the capital of Libya. They even take these lands. Well, when they start getting close, they surround the city. They start pushing in. But at this point, Algerian forces have arrived. And manages to push them back. And yeah. And what does Ethiopia do? Well, push Sudan back. There was a border conflict not long ago between the two. There's also been lots of conflicts going on in this region of the world in particular. And they push down to Uganda's border. This is where the East African Federation wannabe countries step in. Although actually, Sudan does want to be a part of it. So is Ethiopia and Somalia. With their campaign in the South Sudan turning for the worst. But luckily for them, Morocco is making an offensive. Morocco starts a big offensive into Algeria, which actually goes successful. Considering who's involved. We'll look into a scenario in which Egypt invades Libya. Egypt and Libya go to war. And to start this, Egypt declares war on Libya. Yeah. It's not good. Doesn't look so great. But there will be allies getting involved, just not yet. And I was thinking maybe in the future I would do some other stuff. Still mapping related. With Egypt crossing. But meeting some resistance in the area it's trying to fight, getting pushed back. Struggling to advance because of how This area is very strategically important, and they push back. But here, meanwhile, still important because of all the pipelines bringing water to Libya. And Egypt quickly advances far into Libya, cutting Libya in two, but in a useless area. But they manage to take this area with like 5 troops. And well, they also widen this front. And well, we're not going to go through who supports who. But Algeria joins Libya's side, with Morocco deciding to join Egypt's side. And so does Sudan. But Ethiopia in the south decides, well, them and Western Sahara will get involved. Getting South Sudan involved, they somehow get Djibouti involved on their side. And they also get Everett's favorite legitimate country, Somaliland. But in some fronts, it goes horrible, especially in the Moroccan front, where everything just goes downhill, with swift invasions. Taking the south out was easy, but Morocco's strongest in this area. Well, Morocco pushes back in the north, and a bit in the south. But this is where Egypt starts sending some forces south. But luckily, those forces they send south are not from this front. And well, with the help of Sudan, they push in to South Sudan. And the Tigrayan region gets impacted and invaded, along with Djibouti. But you know who does do well? Where they do well? Here,